He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
This episode contains discussion of the loss of a child. Please take care when listening.
When you join that club of losing children, it gives you a...
Interrupted by the bell. Is that Mum?
Hello?
You might hear the phone ringing quite a lot during this episode. I'm with Julie and Peter Keast. They live just out of the small settlement of Tokanui in the Catlins, about 50 minutes from Waihopai in Invercargill. Here, they raised their two sons, William and Oliver, or Ollie. Julie, who is in her mid-60s, is a fourth-term councillor for the Southland District Council, and Peter's the local electrician. So between the two of them, the phone rings quite a lot. That's just how their life is. It's a landline, and we actually unplugged it. Peter didn't quite get the memo, and he plugged it back in. Kia ora, I'm Āpeish Taratua Rangikura. He uri no Ngāti Raukawa, Ngaitirangi, Ngāpuhi me Ngāti Rārua. This is Far From Town, made by Shepherdess and RNZ. Stories of women at the end of windy gravel roads and up remote valleys across Aotearoa. This story includes discussion of accidental death, grief and child loss. So if you've got a box of tissues, you might like to find it now. It's a cold but beautiful late winter's day in Southland, and we've made it to Julie and Peter's. Kind of. We actually missed their driveway. We got about halfway through the farm paddock and thought, I don't think this is the right way, so we backtracked and went to the house next door. And thankfully, there Julie was waiting for us. Sitting having a cup of tea with Julie at her dining table, surrounded by newspapers and walls filled with memorabilia and photographs, it's obvious how prevalent the memories of their son William are and continue to be for her. We're not long been talking about her work and life in Tokanui when she tells us about William, who died 3 weeks before his 17th birthday. You can't just skip over that important story. It isn't like it's an elephant in the room, more like, how do you talk about your life without giving context to a huge chunk of what shaped it?
He had a car accident and actually drowned in the Mataura River. Wow. The car went into the river and, yeah.
Did you get a phone call that day? How did you find out?
He'd left here at 20 to 8 in the morning. His friend Daniel had come out from Waikawa the night before because William was going into Invercargill to do the interview to go to SIT to do engineering. He discovered that that's what he would really like to do. It sort of made his eyes light up a wee bit. So yeah, they left from here and William was driving and he, was on his restricted licence, so theoretically he shouldn't have had Daniel in the car with him, but you just think, as a mother, you say, oh, we'll see you later, and you assume that that's what they're going to abide by the rules. But anyway, Daniel got thrown out, and so he survived. But yeah, it's been a fairly tough road for him too, really. So
I can imagine that.
Yeah, but I was actually training to join the ambulance down here, and so I had a buzzer. And I saw where it was and what time, and it sent me into a bit of a spin for quite some time. And so I couldn't get anybody to tell me anything, of course, even if they did know. And so in the end, Oliver and I said to Oliver, we'll go out and see what we can see. So yeah, we got stopped at the top of the Fortrose Hill there, the Stirling Hill, and yeah, they said, oh, no one's going in there. And the traffic was being diverted round, and so, it was an agonising wait. So, yeah, that moment of waiting.
That must have been awful, having that kind of gut instinct at the time with that ambulance and just waiting to know.
Yeah.
And not being able to get a hold of William in any way.
No. And we had to get into the back of the police car, Oliver came with me, And they told us that William had passed, and Oliver said to me, "Breathe, Mum." And it's always been, and it carried on for quite a while with just breathe, one more breath. In lots of ways, you want to run away, but you can't. It's just a moment in time. And that was the thing, just have a breath, and then that second is gone. So it was sort of like that's how we got, how I managed it, just this moment will pass. The next one doesn't look too great either, but, this one is past. So,
How old was Oliver? That's so
profound.
From...
I know, he's 3 years younger, so he was the wise old age of 13.
Wow.
Going would be 14 in the February. So he was, No, he is a remarkable young man, really. Yeah.
It's quite beautiful that his words, and probably him as well, is something that helped you get through those seconds, isn't it, the way you kind of describe it? Because my sister lost her daughter when she was 9 weeks old, and I remember it was like that for her. Every second of the day was something to get through, and I think people don't really realise that in grief, that it's the days feel longer and the weeks feel longer, and as much as life carries on, it's not that life gets easier, but it just gets easier to take a breath.
It still just feels like yesterday, but it feels like ages. And I think it's that the missing, the way I describe it now is that the missing you part of it is forever, feels like forever, whereas the moment in time when you realise what's happened, it's like it's just there. It's like it never really goes away. Maybe I need counselling on that, but in lots of ways I don't think that's the way it is. It's it's a real thing with time. Can be forever, and it can be in the same breath. It's right now. So
I think grief is one of those unique experiences in life where I don't know if counselling can fix anything, but it can perhaps support people to get through those breaths, but
yes,
things like that. So it's as much as life carries on, there's through each of those milestones you're reminded of just how yesterday it was.
Yes. Two of Peter's nieces and my brother and his partner, they were pregnant at the time. And so when you look at Zach, Bailey and Claudia, that is how long it is, like in real terms. Probably focus on that and look at that, and I watch what William's friends are doing and where their milestones are, and think about that. It's just part of life, really, because when we drive to Invercargill, we drive past the site every time, and somebody said to me, why don't you go, is there another way you can go? And I said, well, yes, but then I'm still going I'm going that way for the same reason. Yeah, it's a moment in time I wish was not there, but it is, and so driving another way doesn't change that. Like I might as well put my big girl's pants on and just drive past it. But it's been amazing over the time, the songs that we had at William's service, how many times they turned up on the radio as you're driving up to there.
It's been 15 years since William's accident. People think time heals all wounds. I'm not really sure about that. I think you just get better at surviving, maybe. As you keep going through life, you come across other things that can bring you joy. That doesn't mean the grief has gone away. I've seen the impact loss can have on a relationship, so I'm wondering how Julie and Peter first met, who they were then, and how they are with each other now.
Well, I started off in meeting Peter in Winton. I went to work at the Bank of New Zealand there as a typist. Peter's mother Peter.
It's
pledgy container, yeah.
It's going to be the opening of your episode. Oh, shit.
We put an ad in for somewhere to board, so I went to live at their house as a boarder.
And stayed for
Quite a few years, yeah. Stayed for a few years, and then I went out flatting in the evening to follow around a wee bit too. We got married at the Otara Church, and then we went down to Waipapa Point Lighthouse, so 5 minutes from the church, and the marriage was on the rocks already, so, you know.
Very punny. Good
So,
jokes
yes,
there.
I survived. That's 40 years past, so,
Yeah, I mean, you must have done something right.
yes, yeah.
Because I know grief can be really challenging for a couple. Did you both grieve quite differently, or were you...
Yes, I decided that what I need can't happen because I just wanted him back. And so it was sort of like thinking, I don't know what I want. I can't express what I need to fill this gap. And so I couldn't actually ask Peter to do that. We just had to go forward with this and go together and carrying on. And we probably did grieve quite differently in that Peter probably didn't use William's name a lot. Yes, that I decided that actually for William, I would use William's name as much as possible because that gave other people permission to use it as well, his name as well, and you know then they could share. They didn't need to feel that. I have had people say to me, I'm sorry to upset you. I said, nothing you have said or you can say or do will upset me any more than losing William already has. So, you know, you don't need to apologise because this is just as it is. That's William in the daffodils that come out at my sister's farm.
The couple's younger son, Oliver, the wise old teenager, has grown up now. He's left home, been out in the world, travelling with his girlfriend Ellie, getting on with life. Letting him go off must have been incredibly challenging for Julie and Peter.
Oliver lives in Gore. He and Ellie have set up in Gore. At the moment, he's in Scotland doing some shearing.
My sister since has had more children, and her son is he's 3 now, and he's this confident, jumping off chairs and everything, and she doesn't mollycoddle him, she doesn't have that. And I always wondered if she would, after Noah, just want to wrap him up in cotton wool and hide him away from the world, but she doesn't have. Did you feel like that with Oliver at all? Nope.
Well, you didn't, but I've tried not to because I thought that would just be horrible for him to have his mother wanting to know where he was all the time. Doesn't mean that I don't want to know where he is all the time, but now he's an adult. He's, fully fledged adult, but yeah, in that growing up time. But yeah, William's friends were very good to him. Well, thought they were very good to him. They were good to him. They would call in. They often go down because William's buried in the local cemetery down here, and carloads of them would come out and they would call in and they'd pick up Oliver and take him with them.
Oh God.
Yeah, and when you think about it, they're 17 and 18-year-olds and he's really only 14. That's like, it probably wasn't my wisest decision. But then would I have said no? He always came back home and he seemed fine, but yeah.
I've actually been working on a project that is based in Tokanui, an event called the Shepherdess Muster, and Julie, of course she is on the volunteer committee for the muster, so I've been working pretty closely with her for well over a year now. I already thought so highly of her as a person, but hearing about her journey with grief, how she's approached being a mother since, and how she continues to live with it all, has heartbreakingly opened my eyes more to who she is and why.
So this is it in here.
Aha. So we've got plans.
Yes, they are changed from this. The 2 sets of drawers are going to
After a hot cuppa, Julie takes us on a tour of their house. They've been renovating room by room. She shows us where her new expanded wardrobe is going to be, purpose-built to store her beautiful clothes and her extensive shoe collection, which she really has an eye for. Something I discovered that her and William had in common. And as we walk around with Julie, she pointed out photos, scrapbooks and artworks until we came to a particular door.
This is William's room.
Yeah.
So, yes, he had to put up with Noah's Ark
Curtains.
Yeah. Ollie's sort of in, comes in here now.
Will you ever do this room up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of emotion in this. That,
Yes.
You know, the drawers probably still got quite a bit of William's gear in it, and he loves shoes too. So there's shoes, boxes, and
Generational
things.
shoe
it's
fetish?
Yes, it's a shoe fetish thing. So yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it will be quite a hard room to get to for the
Yes,
renovations.
There was a lot of stuff that we got stuck with for a long time that we couldn't, because it was associated with William, just couldn't put it out. Even stuff that was in the garage that had come from the car, out of the car afterwards or whatever. And so we had a guy working for us for a while, Ashley, and he decided, we need to clean this stuff out, and he got in there and he, this is all rubbish, and he just put it out. It was the best thing ever. Like, it's sort of like, I thought, no, it needs to go, and both of us stuck. So yeah, thank you, Ashley, that's good.
It's like the empty nest feeling, but tenfold. What to do with their home now the children have left, or in Julie's case, when one has left and the other remains in memories only. Standing in that room feels both heavy and hopeful. We can see the push and pull between locking every possible memory in there, but also wanting to bring the space new life.
So yes, I've been getting used to the microphone.
Oh, right.
I'm just ignoring it.
The doorbell rings and Greta, Julie's mother, pops in for a visit, while Peter, who'd been avoiding the mics all morning, decides that lunchtime is a good chance to chime in and keep Julie's storytelling in check. I asked Julie what led her to stand for council.
Mum actually said to me, are you going to stand for council? It must have been this time of the year. And no, why would I do that? And then brother-in-law Alan said, are you going to stand for council? And I said, is this some kind of a conspiracy going on? You're the second person to ask me. And he said, no, I haven't talked to anybody. I just thought you'd do a good job. And so, well, thanks very much. But no, I don't think so.
Compliment from the brother-in-law.
Yes, I thought that was too. Marsh and I have always got on pretty well. And then a neighbour down the road, Gay, rang up and said, that the current representative, Paul Duffy, was going for the mayor, and he had said, we need to find someone local, because if I get the mayoralty, it's not the same representation that coming through. And so Gay rang up to formally ask me if I would put my name forward. And I thought, really, I thought that Grandad Buckingham, who was on the Southern County Council, would have done enough. And she said to me, but wouldn't he be so proud? So, damn you, Gay. Oh, well, I'll look at it, And so, and then I thought, actually, it sort of suits, like if it did come off, it sort of suits because it's not a full-time job. You're not driving to Invercargill every day, because that's actually quite exhausting. And so, so the rest is history.
When the ones from South Canterbury come down, we often, we might go to the pub for tea, or else we might do fishing.
Julie comes from a large family, and a lot of her family still live in and around Tokanui. She's a much-loved aunt, and as she does in the community, she's also the connector in the family. It's lovely to meet her mum, Greta. I can feel their bond, and I can see where both Julie's sense of humour and determination come from.
She's become a very determined woman, which is fair enough, but she's confident and knows what she knows about things. We have some wonderful discussions, don't we?
Yeah.
About all manner of stuff.
We can sort people's lives out, can't we?
Well, we can, all right.
Just if they would ask us, we'd be
We'd
it
be
sussed
right.
for them.
Yes, we
Yeah.
would, Joe.
Well,
And we
look-
always say that too. It's
We do.
amazing how much we know, how we know what other people should do.
Well, we can put that in the podcast, and you might end up with a
whole new
lives of
business.
people
Oh, goodness.
coming
How do
to
you tell people?
Well, they'd have to be prepared for us, wouldn't they? So, yeah.
That's for sure, John. That's for sure. But
be
we,
prepared. We'll fix your life.
Yeah.
but we do have some good times, and we talk about all sorts of things, don't we?
Yeah. I challenge some of your beliefs and thinking.
But that doesn't change much,
No,
does
well,
it?
that's fine. I suppose that's one thing I've learned as a counsellor is that to set what I think should happen aside when people are talking to me, I have to listen to understand and then from there decide what points might, if there's a change of heart required or if there's a change of direction required or if there's, how can we get the best out of the situation considering all the points.
Julie is one of those quiet, humble achievers, that person that gets asked to do everything. As well as being on council, she's a trustee for Whakamana Te Waituna, a wetlands restoration project. She's also a trustee for the Goran District's Community Counselling Centre and the Pioneer Women's Memorial Trust. She serves on the board of Citizens Advice Bureau in Invercargill and is treasurer of Catlins Coast Incorporated. Is this helping out everywhere and anywhere what living far from town means for her and Peter?
No. It's a bit of a saga, really. Because what do you want to live way down the sticks for? It's not that far to town, it's only 50 minutes.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes.
It's 65k from here, from our place. And that's the centre of town.
So sometimes it's
People in Auckland can do 10k and take them twice as long.
This is true. Auckland's its own beast, though, isn't it?
Every so often you have to do just a day to do stuff like that, but because going with council stuff, I generally try to tack it on because otherwise it's another day. But yeah, for social occasions, well, they're completely different.
Do you guys get away much because you're going to Noosa on this week? No.
Peter, no, we don't. We have a policy that if you get invited to a birthday party or or something like that, that if you wouldn't miss their funeral, you go when you're invited, and it's sort of like if you go because they've passed, you go because they asked you.
Family and community are obviously two incredibly important parts of Julie's life. And though she wouldn't sing from the rooftops of all the amazing things she does, she really is a connector. And for Julie, it seems like there is only 1 or 2 degrees of separation with anyone in Southland. She seems to know everyone, and there is usually some sort of family connection as well. Julie is someone who enjoys bringing people together and spending time with those who matter most. And that community came together for her and Peter when they needed them most.
That was one thing about William's service, wasn't it? That it was overwhelming how many people were there. But I said to the funeral director afterwards, well, how many people were there? And he said, between 800 and 900 people at the Tokanui Hall. And we were just so blessed because it was fine. Because it would have been, there was that many people would have been outside, it was just, that circle of influence, that ripple effect of the kids, nowadays particularly. But also we'd lived in Winton, so, we'd still in contact with people, but the people that travelled for that, it was incredible. They'll say that 900 people or 800 people attended an All Black funeral. So William pulled that, It's sort of it still is amazing to me.
And I think also in a community, Joel.
Yes,
people
absolutely.
pull together like you wouldn't believe when something like that happens. You may not have a lot to do with them, but they'll come.
Yes, absolutely. And the community was wider because we had lived, like Peter's being at Winton, well, it's not impossible for his school friends to travel, or his workmates and that at that time to come to that significant event really in someone's life. We felt very blessed that people cared enough to turn up really. But as I said before, I don't know how you would do that, not being in a community or not belonging to a community, not having that support network. Because people just kept on coming. I think the last there was poor Jeanette Ruddenclaw, who sadly has since passed. She arrived probably in, I think it was about the August after William had passed. So she said, I've been meaning to come and I've just never got here, but I thought I would come, and I just thought, the fact for me it was really special because she was still thinking about us. She was still thinking about him, and so it was beautiful. Yes, I think that the Tokanui community is based on coming together for good, and people respond to that when they get it. When they understand that a little bit of effort now, we all come together and it's good for everyone. I think that sense of being apart but coming together for events and connection is, there's some cool things that go on around the town. So it's a cool place to be. When you're growing up, going to high school, you think, Tara, I'd never come back to live. Well, never saw how I could come back to live, I suppose. But so life has some funny twists and turns, doesn't it? Well, for me, it's home, and so it's sort of like an expectation that you just fit in and that everybody should be welcome. And I know that for some people that won't be their experience, but that would be what I would hope for. And so I think people respond to that, and they do respond to, there's some really good people, good hearts that live here. And, I always said that about Williams, at the time of William's death, and that was the other thing. I remember thinking, I don't know how I would repay. I felt a great indebtedness to them because, food just turned up, people just turned up, whatever you wanted was, your needs were met in that time, and that was amazing. I always think, I don't know how people would do this in a community where you open your garage door and drive in and close it down again. You just wouldn't know people. And maybe I'm fundamentally nosy, maybe that's it. But they, and it is that connection that draws you back in, and for that landscape, or that you don't actually need to you don't need to have anybody else there in that. That's just you. But to actually live there, you do. Yep. That connection. Well, for me, I would have to. Yeah, for other people, they might quite like not having anybody else in their world, but that's not my idea. That's not a community for me.
Thanks for listening to Far From Town, a podcast series from the team at RNZ and Shepherdess. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following the series in your favourite podcast app to hear more stories of women living at the end of windy gravel roads and up remote valleys across Aotearoa. A heartfelt thank you to Julie Keast and her whānau, who welcomed us in, shared so openly and gave so generously of their time. It was a privilege to sit at your table and hear your story. I'm your host, Āpage Tarato Rangikura, he uri no Ngāti Raukawa, Ngaitirangi, Ngāpuhi me Ngāti Rārua, presenter, writer and producer for the series. Francine Bould captured photos and video along the way. You can see these on the webpage for this series. Felicity Connell is our researcher and production assistant, and Christy McGregor is the series producer. The series was engineered by the RNZ operations team. Justin Gregory is the executive producer for the series, and Brianna Uritich-Gregg is the production coordinator. Thanks to Janina Schwanica for all the great advice and guidance on the series. Tim Watkin is the Executive Editor, Audio. You can find more of RNZ's great podcasts on the RNZ website, rnz.co.nz/podcast. Have a listen.